Welcome to Unlocking Spacetime. Tonight, let's drift beyond our world, beyond the clouds and stars, into a question as old as exploration itself. Should we leave Earth behind? This is the story of humanity's dream to colonize space and the quiet moral questions that follows us like shadows among the stars. Let's begin our journey through time, through space, and through the heart of what it means to be human. Once upon a time, not too far from now, humanity looked up at the night sky and saw not mystery, but invitation. The heavens were no longer a ceiling, they were an open door. Every point of light became a destination waiting to be reached. We built rockets and scraped the edges of atmosphere. We sent whispers of ourselves, signals, probes, robotic eyes into the vast silence beyond. And for a moment, the impossible felt only one heartbeat away. Mars glowed red and lonely. The moon hung silver and patient, its surface marked with the quiet footprints of our courage. We began to wonder, could we make homes there? Could we belong there? At first, it was just curiosity, a spark that turned into an industry of dreams. The moon landing, the robotic explorers tracing lines across Martian soil, the International Space Station, humanity's fragile outpost suspended between sunrise and sunset 16 times a day. Each small victory whispered of something greater, that perhaps Earth was only our beginning, not our boundary. But with each triumph came a deeper question. Not can we go, but should we? We started imagining futures made of glass and hope. Domed cities on Mars glowing under soft artificial skies. Fields of green sprouting inside pressurized valleys. Children drawing pictures of two suns instead of one. It all sounded inevitable, even poetic. Humanity reborn among the stars. But the cosmos has always demanded reflection before arrival. Because every dream has a shadow. And in the stillness of that dream, a whisper began. What if our arrival means an ending for something else? Imagine two futures. In the first, we scatter across the galaxy like dandelion seeds in cosmic wind. We build homes on moons, sculpt atmospheres on dead worlds, mine asteroids for metals older than time itself. We become the carriers of life, the gardeners of a universe that has waited eons for touch. In the second, we step onto Mars, our boots pressing into ancient soil. And beneath those prints lie frozen secrets, molecules of possibility, a quiet chemistry that might one day have become life. And by our presence alone, we erase that story forever. Between those two futures lies an invisible line, the border between creation and intrusion. And crossing it demands something rarer than technology. It demands wisdom. The ethics of space colonization begins here, with a question as soft as a heartbeat, yet heavy enough to shape destiny. Do we have the right to change other worlds? History offers its echoes. When the first explorers crossed Earth's oceans, they too were driven by wonder. But wonder has a cost when it sails without conscience. They found new lands, but rarely empty ones. They carried maps and flags, and behind their sails came disease, greed, and silence. Forests fell, rivers ran red, cultures were lost beneath progress. Now we face another ocean, black, infinite, and cold. And we stand again at the edge of discovery. The question is not whether we will cross it, but whether we have learned from the last time we did. Space colonization is not just engineering, it is storytelling. It's the next chapter in humanity's autobiography. But for the first time, we can choose the tone of that story. We can write it gently. We can replace conquest with curiosity, ownership with stewardship. We can let humility orbit alongside ambition. Pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Picture yourself standing on Mars. The ground beneath your boots is iron dust. The air, thin and bitter, presses against your visor. The horizon stretches in endless silence, painted in gold. Mountains rise like frozen waves. Valleys yawn deeper than imagination. There are no birds, no wind through trees, only your breath. A sound so intimate, it feels like prayer. Would turning this stillness into another earth be an act of creation? If Mars is lifeless, perhaps we can gift it breath. But if even a whisper of life hides beneath its surface, wouldn't altering it be like erasing a word from the language of the universe? Every planet tells a story. Every crater, each storm, each rock is a chapter written in time. And when we arrive, we must ask, are we authors or are we editors? Sometimes ethics isn't about what is, but about what might be. If we find fossils on Mars or microbes beneath Europa's frozen crust, what would that say about life itself? That it is not a miracle, but a pattern. That the cosmos breathes possibilities everywhere, waiting only for warmth, for chemistry, for time. To destroy even one trace of that would be like tearing a page from the oldest book ever written, a book authored by stars. Billions of years ago, before forest and whales and human laughter, Earth too was a quiet laboratory of chance. Tiny cells were busy composing the prelude of consciousness. Imagine then an alien ship arriving, furious, efficient, maybe careless. They drill, they mine, they test. And in doing so, they poison the cradle before it can sink. Had that happened, there would be no us to imagine, to love, to wonder. Perhaps the first rule of cosmic ethics is an ancient as compassion itself: do no harm. But in the vastness of space, where harm may wear shapes we cannot yet recognize, how do we obey a rule we barely understand? And yet, another truth burns quietly beside that caution: we must survive. Earth is a masterpiece, but fragile, a thin film of life stretched across stone and water. One asteroid, one war, one self-inflicted wound, and everything could end. To journey into space might not be arrogance, it might be necessity. To settle other worlds is to plant the seeds of tomorrow in the soil of forever. A backup. A promise that if this garden burns, its memory will not. Carl Sagan once said, all civilizations become either spacefaring or extinct. Maybe colonizing space isn't about escaping Earth, but ensuring Earth endures in memory, in biology, in soul. Yet, even noble dreams can cast shadows. If we flee our home after wounding it and carry our same mistakes into the stars, are we evolving or exporting our extinction? Today, new pioneers rise on pillars of flame. Private companies launch rockets into morning skies, their trails glowing like signatures across dawn. They speak of Mars as the next adventure, the next business, the next beginning. But who decides who gets to go? Who owns the red dust of another world? Who writes the laws of the void? Treaty says no one owns celestial bodies. But treaties are fragile paper when weighed against ambition. Imagine a Mars divided by borders, a moon branded by logos, asteroids auctioned to the highest bidder. Would that be exploration or exploitation? And then there is a quieter voice beneath all this noise: Earth's own. When we build rockets, she builds storms. When we reach for Mars, her forests fade. When we dream of new homes, she whispers, I'm still here. Love me while you can. If we cannot care for the world that birthed us, can we be trusted with others? Space colonization may not be an escape at all. It may be a mirror, reflecting the truth we have tried to outrun. Perhaps the first step to living among stars is learning to live gently under one. Look again at our home. From orbit, Earth is a fragile shimmer of blue and white, a heartbeat wrapped in clouds. No borders, no nations, only motion and color. From that distance, everything we fight for looks small enough to hold in one trembling hand. Maybe the purpose of space travel was never to leave Earth, but to finally see her clearly. Now imagine a child born on Mars, their lungs strengthened by machines, their skin pale under the dim sun, their bones growing light in a weaker gravity, their first words spoken through a radio link to Earth. To them, Earth would not be home, but legend. a myth told by parents who left behind oceans and rain. And maybe one night that child would look up through a dome of glass and whisper, "What does thunder sound like?" As we spread through the cosmos, we are not just carrying humanity outward, we are transforming it. New bodies, new minds, new definition of what it means to be us. The cosmos will shape us as surely as we shape it. And that transformation, beautiful as it may be, is also a gentle kind of farewell. When we imagine the future, cities glowing on Mars, ships sailing between moons, we often see it as progress. But progress, in its truest form, is not just about reaching further, it's about reaching wiser. And wisdom begins when we stop asking, "What can we do?" and start asking, "What should we become?" Let's pause in the quiet vacuum between worlds and ask a question that cuts through the romance of rockets and red horizons. Why do we want to leave Earth? Is it adventure, survival, curiosity? Or is it something more subtle, a longing to escape the consequences of what we have done here? When oceans rise and forests fall, when our planet grows warmer than our hearts can bear, some whispers of Mars as salvation. A new canvas where humanity can begin again. But what if we are not ready to paint a new world yet? What if we are still learning to hold a brush without breaking it? The idea of colonizing space isn't just science fiction anymore. It's strategy. Governments invest billions. Corporations draft blueprints of habitats. Pressurized domes, orbital elevators, artificial ecosystems, each design a testament to ingenuity. But beneath the blueprints hums a quiet danger. The illusion of inevitability. The belief that because we can go, we must go. The space is simply the next step, as if evolution itself signed the contract. Yet, evolution never promised progress. It only promised change. And not all change is forward. Some thinkers argue that true exploration means embracing responsibility, not escape. If we treat other planets the way we have treated Earth, we will carry extinction to the stars like stowaways in our ships. But if we go with reverence as caretakers, not conquerors, we might become something new. The universe finally aware of itself. Picture this, a Martian dawn. The first colony stands silent, a handful of silver domes reflecting the pale sunlight. Inside, the air hums with the rhythm of machines, tiny green plants stretched under artificial light. Their leaves trembling like they remember what wind once felt like. A child wakes in that soft red glow. Their first breath not of earth sky but of synthetic oxygen. They have never felt rain, never seen the horizon curve blue and endless. For them, planet means enclosure, a fragile bubble of life surrounded by eternity. Will they miss what they have never known? Or will they redefine what it means to belong? Maybe one day they will grow up and ask, why did our ancestors leave Earth? And someone will answer, to survive. But another voice might whisper, no, to evolve. Humanity's story among the stars will not be written in metal or fire. It will be written in intent. Because how we go, with greed or grace, with arrogance or awe, will determine not just where we live, but who we become. Terraforming. The word sounds powerful, almost divine. To make a barren planet breathe. To transform an alien world into a second Earth. Scientists dream of it. Warming Mars with mirrors, seeding its atmosphere with greenhouse gases, melting polar ice to release rivers that haven't flowed for billions of years. A miracle of engineering, a triumph of will, and yet a quiet unease lingers beneath it. Because to terraform is to override. It is to take a world as it is, ancient, patient, untouched, and make it ours. It is to assume that life in its all infinite form must look like us to be meaningful. But what if the universe doesn't want another Earth? What if it wants Mars to remain Mars? Frozen, silent, sacred in its solitude. The deeper we go into space, the more we are confronted by humility. Because for all our power, we are still beginners in the language of cosmos. Every rock we touch, every planet we approach, has been turning in silence for longer than life has existed on Earth. We are newcomers in a cathedral of time. So perhaps the first rule of colonization should be the same as the first rule of reverence. Enter quietly. Let's travel farther, beyond Mars, past Jupiter's great storms and Saturn's frozen rings, out where sunlight fades into darkness, and the stars begin to whisper again. There, in the distant reaches, lies the moon of possibility, Europa, Enceladus, Titan. Each one hides secret beneath its shell, oceans under ice, chemistry that flirts with the edge of life. If life exists there, even a single cell, then every plan for mining, drilling, colonizing becomes an act of cosmic vandalism. To touch those worlds without care would be like carving graffiti into creation itself. Maybe that's why silence feels sacred out there, because the universe is still thinking. But suppose we find nothing, no microbes, no fossils, no whispers of existence, only dust and rock and emptiness. Would we then be free to claim them? To mold them into homes, into habitats, into heavens? Perhaps. But even then, there is a deeper question that echoes through the void. Can we ever truly belong somewhere that did not birth us? Belonging is not about survival, it's about connection. The earth doesn't just keep us alive, it knows us. The gravity shaped our bones, its air tuned our lungs, Its colors taught our eyes to see beauty. Even our emotions are tied to her cycles, to the turning of seasons, the rhythm of tides, the warmth of sunlight. On Mars, there will be no seasons like these, no ocean spray, no chorus of birds at dawn, no rustle of trees in summer wind, only dust storms that sounds like memory. Would our souls adapt as easily as our bodies? Maybe colonization will not only test our science but our spirit. Because when you step into another world, you don't just carry oxygen and food, you carry culture, history, myth, the entire invisible gravity of what it means to be human. In the quiet corners of philosophy, some suggest that we shouldn't colonize space at all, not until we have learned to live ethically as a species. To them, colonization is not evolution, but repetition, a new stage for old mistakes. We have already colonized once, they say, across continents, across oceans, and the scars are still fresh in the map of Earth. If we turn space into another frontier, will it heal us or expose how little we have changed? And yet, others argue the opposite. They say humanity needs new horizon, that to stay confined to one planet is to await extinction in slow motion, that exploration is not greed, it's instinct. When early humans first looked at mountains, they didn't stop at the foothills, they climbed. When they saw the sea, they built boats from trees. When they saw the sky, they built fire that could reach it. Perhaps the desire to explore is not a flaw, but the universe's way of ensuring its own story continues. Maybe the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe we are meant to go, but not as conquerors, as pilgrims, as gardeners, as storytellers. Maybe colonization isn't about ownership at all. Maybe it's about participation and helping the universe discover itself through us. When we plant seeds on Mars, when we light domes beneath alien suns, perhaps the cosmos will look back through us and finally understand what life can become. But before that day comes, we must answer a question that hums quietly beneath all the noise. If we spread across the stars, what will happen to us? Will we still call ourselves one species, one humanity, or will time, distance, and isolation shape us something new? Martians, Europeans, Titans, each molded by their own world's gravity and sky. Maybe the cosmos will not only be our destination, but our sculptor. And in that transformation, we may find both our greatest beauty and our greatest loss. Because every time humanity evolves, we leave something behind. The hunter became the farmer and lost the wild. The villager became the citizen and lost the night sky. The spacefarer became something greater, but they will lose Earth. They will lose the smell of rain, the rhythm of ocean tides, the taste of gravity itself, and perhaps one day, Someone will stand on a distant moon, look up at small blue dot in the sky, and whisper, "That's where we began. That's where we learned to love." So far, we have looked outward at the stars, the planets, the vast emptiness waiting for our touch. But now, let's turn inward, because the ethics of space colonization isn't only about what we do out there, it's about what we become in here, in the quiet chambers of our own hearts, in the decision we make when no one else is watching. Imagine the first settlers on Mars. They have built their domes, they have planted their crops, they have carved homes from the dust and silence. Years have passed. One evening, as the sun sinks behind the horizon, the sky burns orange and purple. A young woman stands by a viewport staring at the stars. She has never been to Earth, never felt a breeze on her skin, never stood barefoot on grass, and she wonders, what does it mean to be human? If humanity's cradle becomes only a story. Identity. It's something we rarely think about until it changes, until it slips between our fingers. For those born beyond Earth, identity will no longer be tied to continents or countries. It will be tied to planets, moons, and stars. A Martian will not see themselves as an Earthling. A child born on Europa might not even call Earth home. Their myths, their art, their language will all evolve under different skies. Perhaps they will see Earth not as their origin, but as their ancestor. And slowly, the word human might come to mean something broader, something cosmic. But with that expansion comes fracture, because distance, both physical and emotional, can breed difference. What happens when Earth and its colonies no longer share the same values, the same vision, the same definition of right and wrong? History tells us, where there is separation, there is conflict. Will Mars rebel against Earth's authority? Will resources mined from asteroids become point of contention between worlds? Will space, once seen as infinite, fill again with borders and walls? It's not hard to imagine plaques on moons, corporation carving claims into craters, government fencing off entire planets, all under the banner of exploration. And so, the old question returns. Can we carry our humanity into the cosmos without carrying our hunger for control? Let's travel back to Earth for a moment, because here lies the root of everything we dream about space. Our planet, this fragile blue oasis, is not infinite. Its oceans are warming, its forests shrinking, its air growing thin. For centuries, we have lived as if resources were endless, as if technology would save us. But the truth is, Earth doesn't need saving. We do. And perhaps the most humbling truth of all is that space colonization won't fix this. It won't cleanse us of greed or absolve us of responsibility. If anything, it will magnify our flaws, casting them like shadows across the stars. Some futurists speak of a backup Earth, a refugee in case disaster strikes. But here is the paradox. If we destroy our home, what makes us think we will preserve another? The universe isn't an escape plan, it's a mirror. And every time we look up, it shows us who we are. Our brilliance and our blindness intertwine. Still, the dream remains. A dream older than civilization. The dream of flight, of discovery, of touching what lies beyond the horizon. That dream is not wrong. It's sacred. But sacred things require reverence. Exploration is not conquest, it's communion. It's listening to the silence of the stars and realizing they are not empty. They are full of stories we haven't learned to hear yet. Let's imagine something different. Not a colony on Mars, but a sanctuary. A place where scientists and philosophers live side by side. Where every rock is studied, every breeze respected, every experiment weighed against its moral cost. A world where the first rule is not survive, but understand. Imagine a Mars protected by law, not for profit, but for posterity. A planetary park, a cathedral to time. Future generation could visit, stand upon that red soil, and feel what we feel when we gaze at the stars. Humility and wonder. Because colonization doesn't always have to mean occupation. Sometimes it can mean preservation. In this new vision, space isn't a battlefield of progress. It's a conversation between humanity and the universe. When we touch a new world, we are not writing history, we are joining one. And every footprint becomes a signature, every outpost a promise, every seed planted a whisper. We were here and we cared. Let's talk about ownership. Right now, space law, the Outer Space Treaty, says that no nation can claim celestial bodies. But corporations have already found the loopholes. They can own what they extract, the minerals, the metals, the ice. Soon companies might not claim planets, but everything on them. And in that subtle shift, the stars could become the next marketplace. Imagine an asteroid the size of a mountain, rich in gold, platinum, or water. Its value could equal trillions of dollars. Who owns it? Who profits? Who decides if mining it is the worth of risk to its structure, its orbit, its cosmic balance? When money enters the equation, ethics tends to fade. And the silence of space could one day echo with the sound of industry. But not all voices dream of profit. There are those who see space as sacred ground, a place not to exploit but to protect. Some scientists propose a planetary protection code, a cosmic version of environmental law. Rules that dictate how we explore, how we extract, how we touch. Because just as we created conservation zones on Earth, we may one day create them among the stars. Places we vow never to alter, never to mine, never to claim. Cosmic sanctuaries where time is left untouched. If that sounds idealistic, remember this. Every great step humanity has taken began as idealism. The abolition of slavery, the protection of wildlife, the dream of human rights, all were once called naive until they become necessary. So maybe this time, idealism is exactly what the universe requires of us. Let's return to Mars, but not through a telescope this time. Let's walk there in our minds. You are standing again on that red plain. The sun is smaller now, and the air thin as memory. You bend down, pick up a rock. It's cold, ancient, heavy. You turn it in your hand and realize you might be the first being in history to ever touch it. That single act carries the weight of every explorer, every scientist, every dreamer who ever looked at the night sky and wondered what's out there. Now you know. And yet, the real question isn't what's there, it's what are we bringing with us. Because wherever humanity goes, we carry two things: our genius and our ghost. To colonize space is to spread both our creativity and our capacity for destruction, our compassion and our hunger for more. The challenge of the coming centuries will be deciding which one defines us among the stars. As Carl Sagan once said, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Maybe colonization then isn't expansion, it's reflection. When we step into another world, we don't just carry the light of Earth, we carry the weight of awareness. We become witness, observers, storytellers of infinity. Every civilization has a moment when it looks beyond its own horizon and asks, what's next? For us, that horizon isn't an ocean or a mountain or a map. It's the void, vast, silent, infinite. And for the first time in history, we stand on the edge of that infinity, with the means to step across it. But the real question isn't whether we can, it's whether we should. Let's imagine 200 years from now, the solar system hums with human life, domed cities on Mars, floating habitats orbit Venus, mining stations drift through the asteroid belt, their lights winking faintly in the black. From afar, it looks like triumph, a species that refused extinction, that turned survival into art. But zoom in closer, and you might see something else. Corporations owning entire moons, workers born into contracts they never signed, rivers of melted ice redirected for profit. And Earth, birthplace of it all, forgotten, polluted, abandoned like a childhood home. Is that progress or exile? Progress is not the same as purpose. Purpose is quieter. It asks why before how. the ethics of space colonization may one day define not just our technology, but our legacy. Because every time we light a rocket, we are also lighting a torch, one that can either illuminate or burn. And maybe, just maybe, the stars are not destinations at all, but mirrors reflecting who we have become. Now imagine a different vision, one where our presence among the stars is guided not by greed but by gratitude. A civilization that treats every planet like a sacred story, that walks softly on alien soil, that studies before it settles, that listens before it acts. A humanity that remembers the ancient truth hidden in every sunrise and every heartbeat. That life in any form is a miracle worth protecting. We could build that future. We have the power to choose it. To make exploration a prayer, not a conquest. To build not empires, but ecosystem. Not factories, but frontiers of understanding. The stars could be our teachers, not our trophies. And maybe the greatest discovery awaiting us out there is not another world, but a better version of ourselves. Think of all the worlds we haven't touched yet. Frozen planets drifting in the dark, gas giants swirling like painted dreams, comets carrying ancient secrets of creation. They wait in silence, not for us to claim them, but for us to understand them. Perhaps each one is a page in a cosmic book, and humanity's role is not to rewrite it, but to learn how to read it. Picture it. The moment we step onto an alien shore, our boots press into new soil. Our flags flutter in a sky that has never seen wind. And the air, thin, white, alien, wraps around us like a question. We look up, see Earth hanging in the distance, small, blue, fragile. And for the first time we truly understand we were never separate from it. We are its voice carried by starlight. Every colony we build, every step we take beyond our cradle will speak of Earth, of oceans and forests, of laughter and love, and of all the things that made us human. Maybe one day, on a distant world beneath another sun, someone will carve into stone. We came from a planet of dreams. We crossed the void not to conquer but to learn, and we found ourselves among the stars. Humanity's story will not end on Earth, but whether it continues as tragedy or transcendence depends on what we carry with us, our arrogance or our awe. If we see the cosmos as a playground, we will break it. But if we see it as a cathedral, we might finally find peace within it. Because the stars are not prizes to be won, they are invitations to wonder, to respect, to remember. So before we leave, before we ignite the next rocket, before we take that final step into the unknown, we must ask ourselves, not can we survive, but can we deserve to? Space colonization isn't just science, it's storytelling. The next chapter in humanity's long unfolding myth. But this time, we have the chance to write it differently. We can learn from our past. We can explore with care. Not conquer, but coexist. Let's pause one last time and look at the night sky. The same stars that guided our ancestors now guide our ships. But where they once led us across oceans, they now led us across eternity. And as we go, we must remember, every footprint we leave on another world should be made with gratitude. And so, as you drift to sleep tonight, imagine the endless night sky above you. Each star is a possibility, each planet a story untold. One day, we may walk on those distant lands. But before we do, let's learn to walk gently here, on this tiny blue world that taught us how to dream. Because maybe the ethics of space colonization isn't about where we go next, it's about who we become when we get there. Thank you for joining me tonight on Unlocking Spacetime. May your dreams be filled with stars and your thoughts with wonder.